Good morning from All Star Sports. It's checkout day. And you know what that means? We need to do a review of this resort. But first, I've got coffee this morning, so take a quick sip. And let's get into it. First, let's start with the basics. So today we're staying at Disney's All Star Sports, but there are 3 different resorts in the All Star neighborhood of resorts. We have All Star Sports, All Star Music, and All Star Movies. Each of these resorts is gonna be a little bit different, but they all fall under the same umbrella. These are the All Star resorts, they're value resorts, they are the most affordable of the Walt Disney World resort hotels. Now again, we're staying in All Star Sports and we're going to review All Star Sports, but it's important to keep in mind that all of the resorts are going to be similar. Similar room layout, similar resort layout, similar theming, and similar amenities. So things like the food court as well as the shopping and so on. Now, like we've talked about in the past here on the channel, with the 3 different categories of hotels, we have 3 different types of hotel, but that's not only in the accommodations themselves, it's also what the resort hotel as a whole is going to offer you. So here at the value resorts, we not only have the most affordable price, but we also have the biggest, loudest, and funnest theming of all the different categories of Walt Disney World Resort Hotel that you'll find here at Walt Disney World. This includes, among other things, lots of larger than life theming, lots of detail, and lots of opportunities to just have fun in the environment that is the resort. Here at All Star Sports, that means we have huge sports equipment. I happen to be in the hoop section at this resort, so we have whistles, we have a basketball court, huge basketball hoops, and basketballs all over the place. There's also a baseball section that looks like you're stepping right into a field. And of course we have the football section as well as the tennis section. So there are all these different areas of this resort. And again, the same is true for other All-Star resorts. They all have their own unique charm. They all have these special features that make it possible to really enjoy the environment just when you're hanging out at your resort. And this is great because the rooms here at All-Star Resorts are actually some of the smallest. So they come in at about 260 square feet, which is really small compared to some other rooms that you might find here at Walt Disney World, but really isn't all that small at all, especially the more updated versions of the room like we're in right now. They really do use the space really well, and it makes it so that you have plenty of room for your entire family, but also to store your things and move around. Of course, if you want to see more about what this room looks like, you can do that by checking the description box down below. I will have a tour linked down there. Now, I know we touched on the room just briefly. We're going to talk more about that here in a minute. I want to talk a little bit more about what this resort has to offer and what all of these All-Star resorts have to offer. So of course, these resorts are going to have different themed sections, which we talked about a second ago. They're also going to have a couple different pools. These pools aren't going to be located in every section of the resort, but every section does have a pool that's somewhat nearby. So that is nice, although I understand it can be a little bit disappointing to not have a pool for every dedicated section. I will say, as we were wandering around the resort yesterday, I did see a lot of people in the pool, like you would have expected, but nothing seemed overly crowded. So I do think that this is an adequate amount of pool space for the resort, even though it might not necessarily feel conveniently located outside of every section of the resort. There's also a main pool, sometimes described as a feature pool. This is right outside the lobby. This is where you're gonna find your activities, your games. It's gonna be a slightly bigger pool. In some cases, it has slightly bigger and bolder theming. One thing that I noticed here at All Star Sports is that there are a lot of different games and activities right outside the pool and in that main lobby area as well. So all of your activities are kind of centralized right outside that lobby, which is nice because that's where the food is, that's where the pool bar is, that's where you can go swimming, you can play games, that's where you can go shopping. So lots of stuff happening right there. Speaking of the lobby, inside the lobby of each of these resorts, you're going to find a food court as well as a shop. There's also going to be an arcade and some other miscellaneous stuff depending on the time of day as well as the availability at the time. So we did see someone doing caricatures during our stay, which was really cool. It's a very stereotypical souvenir. I think that it's a great option to have here at the All-Stars. It's also an affordable souvenir. And of course, there are tons of activities that happen over here as well. You can check the activity board when you arrive and see exactly what's going on. I think that it's a great way to enjoy a resort day, do one of the activities, whether it's a paid activity or a free activity. There's a lot of stuff happening and I encourage you to check it out when you're here. Now, like I mentioned, dining is going to be available in that lobby area as well. This is going to be a food court style dining establishment and they're going to serve up a wide range of different types of dishes for you and your family to enjoy. So we have things like pasta, burgers, chicken, plant-based options, lots of different stuff available. There are grab and go options available, which is fantastic. There are some sweets, there are drink fountains. So there's a lot available at the food court. And I do think that this is great. Now, this might not be the most spectacular food that you enjoy on your vacation, but here's the thing, it's incredibly convenient and they do have something that will suit everyone's needs. So when you get back from a long day at the parks or maybe on your check-in day or your check-out day, there are plenty of options to choose from. You don't have to feel like you need to get on a bus, go somewhere and figure out what you're gonna eat. You can just enjoy it right from the hotel, which is huge. I know I've been mentioning this a little bit as we're doing like our Foodie Fridays and we go eat at different resorts, but I think that this is one of those things that people often look over. They glance right past it when they think about staying at Walt Disney World resort hotels. I don't know, maybe some people take it for granted. Maybe some people don't realize the lack of options if you're staying elsewhere off property, not just here in the Walt Disney World area, but when you're traveling in general, there aren't always a lot of food options, whether it's in variety or availability at hotels. Sure, you can sometimes get sandwiches and burgers, pub food, but it's very rare that you're gonna find the selection that you're going to find here at a Walt Disney World Resort Hotel. And the All-Stars are no exception. They have a lot of great options. They have a lot of what I like to call safe options. Those are going to be ideal for your picky eaters, your little ones. And the options are pretty affordable. Portion sizes are pretty good, and we felt that way during our stay as well. We did eat quite a few times here. I mean, why not, right? We don't always have the option to enjoy breakfast out at one of the hotels, and so that's exactly what we did. They do have some very interesting options as well. As I mentioned, we did a Foodie Friday here at the All-Star Resorts, and so it was really nice to see that they had some delicious options that did take us by surprise. It wasn't just your run-of-the-mill burger, it was a really good burger and one that I honestly would get again. Of course, you're gonna have to check that out if you haven't already. And we thought the desserts were pretty great too. So if you're thinking about staying here, at least in terms of food, I think it's important to not get too wrapped around the axles with the quality of the food. I know there are a lot of people who come here, maybe they grab a dish that they just didn't like and they talk about how terrible the quality is. We've never found that to be true for any of the Walt Disney World Resort hotels that we've stayed at. Sure, every once in a while you find an item that you're like, didn't hit the spot, but it is decent quality, it is reasonable pricing, and we think that it'll do the job for you and your family. So I think that that's worth mentioning. And we haven't even talked about the pizza. They have these huge pizzas here. They're 20 bucks. People love grabbing those and just feeding the whole family for 20 bucks. So it's another great option available to you if you stay at an All-Star. When it comes to shopping, there are also some pretty decent gift shops here at the All-Star Resorts. I do think that the value resorts and moderates in some cases have some of the best gift shops available on Walt Disney World property, and that's definitely true for All-Star Sports as well as All-Star Music and Movies. We did check out all three of them. This isn't going to be a massive gift shop, but we're not talking about a kiosk by any stretch of the imagination, although sometimes in the lobby they do have kiosks selling things like bubble wands and other stuff that you might have wanted to get at the park and didn't get yet. I also think that's a great option to get a bubble wand from the resort because you already have it. You won't have to stand in those lines once you get to the theme parks. I see lines for bubble wands all the time at the parks. There was no one in line to get a bubble wand here in the lobby of All-Star Sports. So just something to keep in mind. But back to the gift shop. It does have a wide variety of things to choose from all the different collections that you can find throughout Walt Disney World, but they're also going to be different types of items that you might find yourself needing. So we do have some resort specific stuff, although here at the All-Stars it's very limited, which is a little bit unfortunate. I wanted a cute All-Star t-shirt, but they didn't have one. They also have some pins, some park essentials, things like misting fans. You can get that here at the resort. They also have things like clothes. And I'm not just talking about t-shirts, I'm talking about swimsuits, socks, stuff like that. All that stuff that you might find yourself needing, and it would just be super convenient if you could get it right from the resort. You can absolutely do that. Autograph books, pens, jewelry, snacks, stuff like that's all available down there. They also have coolers with things like Monster energy drinks and soda and beer and wine. So you can get a little bit of everything at these gift shops, and I think that that's fantastic because it's, again, right here. Easy to grab, easy to take back to your room, easy to grab before you take off because it's right inside the lobby, which is right where you'll catch the bus if you happen to be headed to one of the theme parks, which of course you're gonna be headed to one of the theme parks, right? Now we have talked about transportation in a previous video, so you can go check that out if you wanna know more about transportation here at All-Star Sports and the All-Star Resorts in general. But just briefly, it is important to note that the resort does have only bus transportation available. It's all available right outside the lobby, so it's one bus stop. You just have to make your way there, get on the appropriate bus, and then make your way to the park of your choosing. I've had a lot of questions about Disney's All-Star Resorts transportation. Some people say that, you know, you have to share a bus with all of the All-Star Resorts. I didn't see that during my time here, and I've been paying attention to this for a few months now. I haven't seen that anywhere either. Every resort has their own bus, and the bus serves that resort specifically. So that's important to keep in mind if you're thinking about this. That might not always be the case. There might be exceptions every now and again, but I don't think you have to worry about going to all three of the resorts in order to be able to get to the theme parks. That doesn't seem to be all that common, at least not anymore. With that said, let's talk a little bit about the rooms. Now I'm on the first floor. I'm in room 3148, which is in the hoops or basketball section of this resort. Again, we have done a full room tour of this room. You can check it out if you're interested in seeing more. I do think that this is a great location. It is on the first floor, which would make you feel like it might be a little bit noisy. And we have had a little bit of noise, but it hasn't been anything crazy. I really can't complain. Now this room might look familiar, and that's because we have seen other resorts have this style of room. We have two beds. One of them is a Murphy bed with a table. One of them is a standard bed. This is an updated room, so we're seeing a lot of features in this room that we have seen in other rooms that we've really liked. So for example, the bed is on a platform, so you have a ton of space underneath the bed to tuck things. We do have better organization in that bathroom area, which I think is fantastic. We are seeing the updated bathrooms as well. We have this beautiful glass sliding door for the shower, which I've talked quite a bit about because I do love that it has this texture. It makes it a little bit difficult to see into the shower, so it gives you a bit more privacy. Beyond that, everything else that you have in this room is what you might expect from a value. So you're not gonna find a microwave in here. I know that that's something that a lot of people like. Some people say that you can request a microwave, and I have done some research on this. While you may be able to request a microwave, it's never guaranteed. Requests at Walt Disney World are never guaranteed, so it's important to keep that in mind. And with that said, I think it's important to keep in mind if you're looking for a room with a microwave, with more of a eating arrangement, this isn't going to be it. I do think that there are better options, and you should look at staying in one of those places versus here. But that doesn't mean that this isn't a great resort. It's just, it's important to keep your wants and needs in mind before settling on a resort. Just because you make a request doesn't necessarily mean it will get fulfilled, so keep that in mind before you book. Now, the major downside to this room specifically is that the light on the Murphy bed does not work. Super simple, super basic, something that happens from time to time. I really don't have any additional complaints about this room. It's clean. While it is a little bit noisy, it's nothing that you shouldn't come to expect from any other hotel or motel, certainly not the worst that we've ever seen. The room does feel rather spacious, especially with the way that it has been set up, this new furniture. I love that. I love that there is a table and chairs over here so you can sit down, have food that maybe you mobile ordered or whatnot. In reality, I do think that if you have 4 people staying in this room, 2 would sit on the bed, the other 2 would sit on the table, and you'd be good to go. You wouldn't really need more seating, but it would be nice. It would be nice to not have to have 2 people sit on the bed, 2 people sit on the table. Again, this is me being really picky because quite frankly, I can't find too much more to complain about with this room. Speaking of that, if I'm really reaching, I will say that there is no ceiling fan in this room, so you don't really get the air movement that some people might want. I do encourage you to bring a travel fan if you're going to be staying here. Also, since we were talking about the noise not too long ago, I encourage you to bring a white noise machine. I feel like this is one of those things that we talk about so often. It's very easy to bring it with you if you're going to be bothered by the noise. But again, I didn't really hear anything that was super abrasive or loud, just little noises here and there, which isn't really much of a problem. It's just something that you're going to encounter when there are other people in neighboring rooms. The air conditioning works just fine. I was a little bit concerned about the air conditioning when we first came in. Russ certainly was, because the control for the air conditioning is kind of behind the coffee bar, and that's something that we thought was going to kind of impede how warm it got in this room, especially because it is on a sensor. But it actually wasn't much of a problem. The air conditioning kicked on when it needed to, which we thought was great. Although it didn't quite feel as cool in here as we would have liked it to be. The AC was set at 68, and it never really felt chilly in here like you would expect when a room is set to 68. That said, it has been a really humid one here, so that might have been a little bit in our heads because we were just sweaty and gross, and it felt like both of us were struggling to cool down regardless. But I do want to mention that, of course, it is Florida and it is the summertime, so it's important to keep that in mind. I do think that if there were another 2 people in this room, it might be a bit of a different situation because more hot bodies in a small room can make things even warmer. So especially if you're traveling during those summer months, this is something to keep in mind and make sure that you're prepared to accommodate for that. You know, make sure you have some nice lightweight lounge around the room clothes, take a shower, make sure you're washing off the ick of the day. You know, more about that some other time, but I did want to mention that. But definitely not a problem, just something we noticed. The only other thing I can say about this room in terms of kind of a criticism or complaint is that it doesn't have a ton of theming. It feels kind of bland in here. There are some themed elements like on the chairs, which we thought was fantastic. It has different balls on the chairs, which we thought was neat. They easily could have removed that, so we're glad to see that that was there. But I do think that the subtle theming of this room makes it a kind of relaxing and chill space that you might not necessarily get if it was like bright and bold. This resort in general is very bright and bold. So having a place where you can come at the end of the day and just unwind and feel like you're unwinding, it's nice. So I know it might not necessarily be for everyone. If you've stayed here back in the 90s and you're looking for big, bold colors, you're not gonna find that anymore, at least not in the rooms. That's all gonna be outside, and there's plenty of it. So I think if you're looking for bright, bold colors, go out there. I will say, as someone who does like unique theming inside the resorts, I'm a little sad to see that there isn't as much of it in here. I think that they could have done a few things to make it feel like we were at sports as opposed to some of the other resorts that have this exact same layout, but it does have its redeeming qualities, and I think that that's important too. This is a place to relax at the end of a long day. Beyond that, the bed was comfortable, the room was overall comfortable, there was plenty of space to move around. We enjoyed ourselves, and we think that you will too. Now look, we've spent a lot of time talking about this resort today and in previous videos, so I hope you don't mind that I've talked your ear off, but just to sum this up, I do think that the all-star resorts are a fantastic option. I think that while they are kind of out of the way, they're over by Animal Kingdom, it's really not that big a deal. When you have Disney transportation, you can just get on the bus and get where you're going. You really don't have to think too much about it. And I do think that this is another great option at an incredibly reasonable price for families who are looking for a memorable place to stay. Because of course, your resort is the backbone of your vacation. I know that people just think of this as a place to sleep, but it's so much more than that, especially when you're staying at a Walt Disney World Resort hotel. It definitely can be more than that. And this is no exception. Don't let the price fool you. For families who have a tight budget or are looking at really making their dollars stretch, this is a great option. You have some big, bold theming. Memories are made at these resorts. And while we can sometimes get lost in the concept of paying more to get a better experience, the all-star resorts prove that wrong. You definitely don't have to pay for more to get more. And this is an example of just that. But of course, we'd love to know your thoughts, so leave them in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you want to see not only more tours of Walt Disney World Resort hotels and other resorts in the area, but also everything else that we do here on the channel. We do quite a lot. Look, we're trying to help you have a great vacation. We hope we're doing just that. If you think we are, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate it. But that's all for now. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.